and weavers and anybody else that wants to watch. I'm going to try a complete experiment. I have never done dyeing of fiber or yarn or fabric of any kind before, but I've been watching a bunch of videos on YouTube. No surprise there, huh? And one of the people I watch is a lady named Rebecca from Chemnitz, and she did a video a couple of years ago where she dyed some 100% wool. This stuff, it's called Wool of the Andes worsted weight, and it's 100% wool. There's 220 yards or 100 grams. So I'm going to try over the course of the next hour or so to see if I can figure out how to dye this. I'm reminded, and I don't know if I put a video up of this because it was years ago that I did it. I bought some basically white yarn at a Wisconsin Cheap and Wool, I think it was, where they had it dyed with little stripes of color in it, and I like that. It made a really neat looking scarf. So I want to try this again, but I thought I'd try doing my own dyeing. So first thing I'm going to do is take these out of their little sleeve. And try and figure out how they've got this stuff done. And it looks like they have kind of tied it together with a little teeny piece of string, so as you're in a solid loop here. Now when this Rebecca lady on YouTube does this, she goes around these with a couple of twist ties, which I don't have, but I've noticed in some of her other videos that she says acrylic yarn isn't as susceptible to the dyeing. So I'm going to tie these off in acrylic just so I can see what I've got here. In just a couple of places to kind of hold them together. Not that I'm going to tie them so tightly that they can't be used or that the dye won't penetrate. Besides which, I don't plan on dyeing the entire thing. I want to just, I think she'd call it spot dye or paint dye, just a little part of it. So there's one place. Let's put another one of those down at the other end. And I'm also using the most ugly green acrylic that I've got, because I'm not planning on using any green dye. So this will, no matter what happens, this will show up. So there we are, though. That's one of them. Pardon the lighting. I'm outside right now. The sun's behind a cloud, and I think I've shown up a little bit brighter. But when the sun's out, it's bright on the house, and that probably the camera will go and play with the amount of light it lets in. So I'm doing 2 skeins of this stuff because I was sitting there thinking, okay, how much am I going to use for a scarf? And I'm thinking, if I do a scarf 10 inches wide, 3 yards long on the loom, at 8 ends per inch, that comes out to about I think that's 240 yards. Well, each of these is 220, so obviously one's not going to even be enough for the warp. But I'm hoping that by doing 2 of them, that I will use a little bit less yarn in the weft than in the warp, simply because I won't have the effect of loom waste. So that's my logic on that, and we'll find out just how wrong I am when this is all done. So why am I doing scarves in the middle of summer when it's outside? Simply because I don't want to mess with this dye in the kitchen. I don't know how food safe it is. I don't think it is. So I'm not going to take a chance of messing with this in the house. And out here at the picnic table, which I have covered up with a clean, empty garbage bag, I think I can safely work out here and not worry about any chemical contamination of anything we're going to eat. So that's my logic for doing wool dyeing, my first attempt outside. Okay, so now I've got two of these with these little green ties on them. Hopefully that's enough. I've got just a plastic wash tub bucket that I picked up at Walmart or someplace, I don't remember exactly. And I'm going to add to that 1 gallon of water, which I measured out by using an empty milk jug. The logic of this is that, from what I've read on the back of my label, so it says to add a cup of vinegar to the dye bath, or for cotton, rayon, or linen. No, a cup of vinegar for nylon, silk, or wool, and I've got 100% wool. So but they want you to use, for dyeing a huge quantity of stuff, to use how much water? 3 gallons of water. I've only got 1. So I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of vinegar. Brand new set of measuring cups, so as I don't have to mess with food contamination. I'm not using the cups from inside. Do I have a 1/3 cup? Yes, I do. I have a 1/3 cup measure. And I'm not perfectly exact with my measurements. I'm going to aim the camera down and show you what I'm doing next, just so as you can see. Okay, from what I saw this Rebecca lady do, she did a pre-soak of her wool. So I'm doing a pre-soak of my wool. There's one, and there's the other skein, and they're just going in here to take a quick bath and get happy. Oh, we need more chemicals. I'm going to have a can of beer while I work on this. That helps. I won't mix that with the dye, I assure you of that. So I'm just going to let this soak for a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to prepare the dye. So this video that I was watching where this Rebecca lady did this, she had little squeeze bottles of that she used this same Rit Dye, and she put it into little squeeze bottles. And I think she said she used six or 7 teaspoons in 4 ounces. And then she discovered that was way too much, because at the end when she rinsed it, it was just half of it rinsed away. So I'm going to use, I don't have squeeze bottles, I have these red Solo cups. Yes, that's why we drink beer. Red Solo cups, they go together with beer. Good stuff. And I am going to use this Rit all-purpose dye. And I've got 3 colors. I've got yellow, golden yellow, indigo, which is obviously blue, and scarlet. The instructions say to shake these well, and I'm completely wild guessing at how much. I think before I mess with the dye, I want to do one more thing. I'm going to put gloves on. Don't try and put rubber gloves on with wet fingers. They don't go as well. Okay, rubber gloves. I am going to use 1/2 tablespoon of dye per 8 ounces of plain old garden variety water. And I'm going to hope that that's enough concentration Well, there you go. Can you hear the bells? I used to go by those bells for timing dinner when I was doing outdoor barbecue videos. For those of you that haven't seen those old videos, there's one house between us and St. Norbert Abbey, and that's a big, huge abbey, seminary, whatever you want to call it, for the Norbertine priests. And their abbey's about 100 yards from here, if that. So I'm pulling the wool out one batch at a time. And I'm going to separate it here into a big, looks like a Danish pastry kringle shape. So again, when Rebecca did this, she used her squeeze bottle and just squirted all over these things. I want to do in approximately 1/3 of this. So what I'm going to do is paint a little bit of this golden yellow into just one place on here. This one probably doesn't show up real well on camera. And I'm only going to paint an area about 3 or 4 inches. And I've flipped it over so I can get the back side. Spread it out a little bit. So there we go, that's that one. Now I'm going to go rinse. I'm going to use the garden hose to rinse off this guy so he's somewhat clear again. And then I'll be right back.